In this episode, you'll be wondering two things. One, when Marvel started allowing middle schoolers to write scripts, and two, why you clicked play on this in the first place. Hey y'all, Snarky J Cosplay here. Episode 5 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law is officially out today. Without giving too much away, I can tell you that this episode feels born entirely out of foolishness and not having a better plot for this series. Characters you thought you knew pretty well are made radically different for the point of comedy, and every character introduced feels more one-dimensional and more poorly written than the last. I have to rate this episode a 2 out of 10. While I think it's just as unfunny and boring to watch as the rest of them, I think it is exponentially more nonsensical to the point that I just can't forgive anymore. That's all I can say without giving too much away. With that being said, let's get into it. From this point forward, there will be spoilers for episode 5 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law. You've been warned. We open on a commercial for She-Hulk by Titania, which is apparently a new makeup brand that Titania, the superpowered influencer, has put out. Jen is visibly bothered by this, but of course her pouting is interrupted by none other than her charming cousin Ched, who barges into her apartment unannounced with a box of Titania's merchandise for Jen to sign. A conversation here leads us to believe that even Ched has a better understanding of trademark law in the United States than Jen, a supposed lawyer. In order to have a chat with Titania, Jen and her personal cheerleader slash paralegal Nikki head to a pop-up shop for Titania's new products. Titania calls Jen a little child and is completely uncooperative with Jen's not so much requests but demands for her to stop using her name. The dialogue between these two successful adult women is written in a very Mean Girls sort of high school drama type of way, and I have to wonder why the writers in this show insist on making everybody sound so dumb. The conversation, which seemed to be going nowhere, is naturally interrupted by one of Titania's vapid fans coming up and asking for a selfie. I find it interesting that in this series, any woman that isn't Jen is written as obnoxious and shallow. I don't really know what they mean to say with that. Back at the office, Jen is trying and failing to convince herself that she's over all this name drama. Nikki heads to her own office and is approached by Pug, that's the male lawyer that they work with, in the event that you forgot who he was. He approaches asking Nikki for a favor. He wants her to stand in line for a drop of the new Iron Man 3s, which are some apparently coveted sneakers he's really looking to get. Now, everything about this scene feels completely off to me. Besides Bruce and Wong, Pug is actually the one man in this show that isn't painted to be a complete a-hole. He's painted to be a somewhat competent lawyer, and he always comes across fairly level-headed, maybe even on the same level as Jen. However, this episode changes everything about Pug, from his demeanor to his speech pattern to his entire attitude. They basically demote him from a good friend and colleague of theirs to a guy whose entire personality is the fact that he's really into sneakers. In conversation, he mentions that he gets some shoes custom made by a drip broker, which I don't think anybody with any actual drip would ever say. Nikki gets an idea and agrees to help him with the sneaker drop only if he'll introduce her to the drip broker so that she can get Jen some custom made clothes. They travel together to a boba cafe, which is a supposed front for the drip broker. Only what they find is a young man selling bootlegged Avengers and Avengers merchandise. In order to score a chance to talk to the real drip broker, they buy some merch and they're led to a golden door with an intercom system and a security camera above it. The voice behind the intercom is surprisingly rude, but when Nikki lies and says that her client is an Avenger, the guy comes around and agrees to give her an appointment. In their excitement, despite having been made aware of the camera just moments before, Nikki and Pug break into this weird little celebratory dance and are once again reminded, "I can still see you," as the camera whirs above them. It's a scene that's only missing a 90s laugh track to remind you how absolutely hilarious this show is. Back at the office, Jen is in hot water with her boss, Mr. Holloway, who is accosting her over what a hassle this lawsuit is. You would think that he or any other attorney in this place, who all presumably have passed the bar, would have brought up the whole trademark name and resolved it within moments of her arriving to work at this law firm. Now, because she knows she can't represent herself, Jen enlists the help of Mallory Book, who's another lawyer at her firm. In the comics, Mallory Book is actually a former pageant queen turned attorney, and she's known as the face that never lost a case. Mallory agrees to help, but not before she leaves Jen with the comment that she should start dressing like she respects herself, which comes across catty and cruel instead of women supporting women. From the sounds of it, it feels like this show is really willing to make any powerful woman sound petty and rude if it makes Jen feel more relatable and worth pitying. Anyways, in court, Mallory does a really good job of stating Jen's case. However, Titania's representation brings up a clip in which Jen says that she's never gonna answer to She-Hulk because it's terrible, it's derivative, and she just doesn't like it. Mallory has a contradictory clip in which, in a news appearance, Jen says that yeah, she is She-Hulk and she always will be. The judge ends up calling for a recess because she says that she's currently inclined to agree with Titania. So she's giving the defense a little extra time to find more evidence of Jen using She-Hulk as her name. We cut to Jen meeting Luke, the drip broker / superhero clothing designer. He's initially reluctant because he doesn't want to make pantsuits for a lawyer. However, Nikki has Jen transform in front of him and he realizes what an opportunity it would be to make clothes that would fit both Jen's bodies. After this, Nikki and Jen return to the office where Todd, one of Jen's terrible dates, is currently chatting with Mallory. It's in a discussion with Nikki about why she ever went out with Todd in the first place that Jen gets an idea. Because she had an entire dating profile under the name She-Hulk and let several different guys go out with her calling her that, she's got several witnesses that can corroborate her story of having used She-Hulk as part of her identity. So, back at the trial, Mallory brings up this point, and she pulls up Jen's She-Hulk dating profile, in which her description says mean green and straight poured into these jeans, and she's looking for someone with a, quote, sturdy back and a reinforced king-sized bed. Of course, on this dating profile, there's nothing about her interests or her high-powered legal career. And suddenly, every guy that she's been out with turning out to be a complete sleazeball makes perfect sense. Everything about her dating profile seems shallow and thirsty anyways. It comes time for the 4 witnesses to be called. The first one comes to the conclusion that Jen is a try-hard for constantly boasting about the fact that she is She-Hulk. The second, a writer, claims that her constantly referring to herself in the third person as She-Hulk was grating. The third goes off on a tangent about being the kind of man a woman can really open up to. And the fourth, the guy that Jen spent the night with, says he only went out with Jen because she presented herself as She-Hulk. He was never interested in Jen because Jen is not his type. The woman he wanted to go out with was She-Hulk. This moment very much feels like woe is me pity bait for Jen. We're supposed to feel bad that this woman is being objectified for being She-Hulk and not appreciated for who she is as Jennifer Walters. But really, I'm of the opinion that Jen catfished this guy. On that profile, she only had pictures of She-Hulk. That's who he went to bed with, and when he woke up in the morning, he was faced by somebody completely different. I don't really blame him for walking out. For Pete's sake, my own dating profiles always have at least one picture without winged eyeliner, because I'm not trying to sell a false bill of goods here. Anyways, the court rules in Jen's favor and calls for Titania to recall every She-Hulk product she's put out. Naturally, because they're all sleazy and you need to be reminded of that, one of Jen's former dates follows Titania out with obviously salacious intent, and as they step out of the courtroom together, Jen and Mallory have a heart-to-heart about Jen deserving better than any of those guys she dated previously. Jen invites Mallory to drinks, and naturally they head to legalese together. Mallory tells Jen that she is shocked that she was so willing to humiliate herself in front of a judge just to win a case, and that their boss would never do that because he has never had to parade himself to prove his value in front of a group of underwhelming men. And they continue this theme with the only piece of dialogue in this entire series that has ever hit completely home with me. They say that a woman could have literal superpowers and that a man with an internet connection would still say that he can do better. The delivery of this line actually comes across way more conversational and chatty instead of preachy and forced like any of the other lines like it in the series. And it's true, plenty of men with internet connections have actually based the validity of my analysis and my arguments based on what I look like. But that is neither here nor there. When Jen says that she feels she and Mallory have finally become friends, Mallory naturally has to knock our heroine down a few pegs and remind her of her poor clothing choices. teases. So Jen returns to pick up her clothes from Luke. She's given a pair of garment bags, and while we don't see her trying anything on, what we do see is a hat box containing a horned yellow cowl that definitely teases Daredevil's cameo and suggests that it could be coming in the next episode. After all, the writers know that most viewers aren't complete masochists, and a lot of people are going to be jumping ship after this absolute dumpster fire of an episode. So they have to reel you back in by promising Daredevil. As of this episode, I have officially lost hope that this show will get any better. It constantly contradicts itself, it's burdened with terrible dialogue, and riddled with unfunny humor. And I am half past terrified to see what they're gonna do with Daredevil, whose Netflix series is arguably the best Marvel stamped TV content we have. For the inevitable, why watch it if you hate it so much comments? I'm a reviewer, and that's what I do. I review things. And I've already sat through 5 episodes of this thing, so I'll be damned if I don't finish it. Again, I give this episode a 2 out of 10. Now let's see what the last 4 episodes of this mean green cringe machine has in store for us. That's all from me. I've been Snarky J. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on episode 5 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law in the comments below.